Welcome to Slayerfest 98. I'm Ian Carlos Crawford.
And I'm Brett White. And today we are joined by streamer extraordinaire
Hi, I'm Taylor Robbins.
and host of Curious Jojo.
Jojo.
Hi, boys. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
So we're here to discuss Loki season 2. Taylor, you even mentioned Marvel's been in a little bit of a slump, but I think so. This weekend they dropped the Loki finale and the Marvels, and I do think both were good. I don't know. I think it's more been for me peaks and valleys of not everything quite makes it, but some people have been oh, it's all been shit, but it really all hasn't been. I fucking love Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, Black Panther Wakanda Forever came out in this phase.
That's
and I
true.
feel like everyone, when they're running through all the crappy Marvel movies or the good Marvel movies, everyone just forgets that it exists. They
just
never
don't touch
listed in
this.
either one. And I'm like, wait, no, that came out almost a year ago. That is part of this phase.
I will not name, but I want you, all three of you, to know that someone who normally has liked Marvel but doesn't like it anymore was I did that. I was like, well, but there's also Wakanda Forever. And they're like, yeah, that movie fucking sucked. And I was like, oh. And they were like, Angela Bassett's monologue was corny. And I was like,
Ew.
I don't know what to say to you now. Right?
That's rough.
All right.
I was like, I mean, okay, everyone has their
There seems
opinion.
it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy that now it is very, very cool to hate Marvel.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it is very cool. Things that 10 years ago would have been oh, that was fine, are now fucking suck. It's and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't until Multiverse of Madness and Quantumania that I had Marvel movies that I like.
Brett, I
Whoa.
feel, I don't know how you two felt about Multiverse of Madness, but Brett, I feel like for you and I, that was our biggest Marvel disappointment. So it was just we built Wanda up so good, and now she's a villain.
Right.
See, I really enjoyed Multiverse of Madness, but it's because she was a villain, and I was like, that's what I want her to be. I want
Well,
her
now,
to,
yeah. Now I love
want her,
that
all of her fantasies. I want her to live her life.
The gays are able to reclaim anything because it's yes, no, work, Wanda, kill those children. I don't care. That's how it. So that's kind of how I treat it now.
Just watching her just destroy the Avengers of a different timeline, just like that, was
Fuck
just
them.
so satisfying. Just to remind you of how powerful she really was.
I love my angel Peggy Carter, though. I felt it was disrespectful.
Yeah, so did
That's
she.
true. That's
She
true.
did say that in an interview, right? She didn't
she was not
that.
happy about that.
But okay, so we're here to talk Loki season 2. I am curious, what did we feel season 1? What did everyone I'm curious what everyone's opinions are. Brett, I think we recorded for season 1, but Jojo, what did you think of the first season of Loki?
Well, I feel like this season wasn't as grand as the first season. I feel like the first season had so much, I don't know, maybe because it felt so new and different that to me, I think I was up in my chair paying attention a little bit more. This season, I think it took a minute for me to get into it. It was a lot of exposition. A lot of information was being thrown at me in the very beginning where I was like, I'm so lost. I remember I finished the very first episode and I was like, what? I don't even know if I can retain this information. There's so much going on. So honestly, probably to season or episode 3-ish is when I started being like, okay, I think I'm catching on to what's going on now. I feel like we're getting to the juice now. And that's where I feel like it started to slowly reel me in, but it took a minute to get through those first couple episodes. I don't know why. It just, a lot was being thrown at me, and the TVA didn't feel like the TVA anymore. I feel like we were just really centered on just a couple of people versus it being this bigger thing. But yeah, that's my quick answer.
All right.
I just wanted to interject. When you said the TVA didn't feel like the TVA anymore, I never thought about that. And it reminded me, well, I don't know if any of y'all grew up in the church and Southern Baptist, whatever, but I realized, oh, this season it felt like what the church feels like after 8 p.m. when everyone else is gone and you're just in there in this creepy, weird space. Because it felt like with the TVA this season, the adults were gone. Like, well,
Right.
the lizard robots were gone, so it did feel very different. So anyway,
Mhm.
sorry.
That was like
that
one of my
comparison.
key takeaways. Like in my notes, it's written like 3 times. Like, why is B15 running the show? Why does X5 have so much say? Who are these new people that are running things if the timekeepers were supposed to be in charge last
Mhm.
season? Who's this grand council in the war room that has final say on like what's happening here? Like, who are you? Are you the after shift people? I don't know.
I did like that one of those after shift people, like in that visit the premiere when B15 goes in to like tell them this is what is actually happening. One of them actually believed her.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's good. That never happens on,
Yeah.
on TV shows. It's usually like, no, you're lying. It isn't until like they're all dead or dying that they're like, oh, maybe you were right.
Well, to be fair, she didn't come back and say like, "Oh, like maybe you were right," until like Docs and her whole crew had been
Oh, yeah,
arrested.
yeah.
That's true. But Taylor, what do you think of season 1 versus season 2?
So I loved season 1. It was like it was the first Marvel show that they released, right? Because they released it before
After
WandaVision.
It was after
WandaVision.
After
WandaVision.
WandaVision?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Okay, it was-
after Falcon Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Okay, it was the first one that I started watching. It was when I was like, all right, I'm finally gonna submit to the TV shows. And I love the direction they took it, and it just was very interesting and all the things they did. And so I loved it way more than I loved season 2. Season 2, starting with the time slipping, the payoff at the end made sense, but the way they introduced it and the mind fuck of confusion that we had for episodes 2 and 3 was just like, what? There's a lot happening here that was not part of season 1, where I feel like there were mechanics in season 1 that we could have just brought on over instead.
Brett, I'm curious what you think season 1 versus 2.
I loved season 1. I think that what season 2 is missing, which I also enjoyed, are those like set pieces. Like when I think about season 1, I think about the Lamentus episode, when they're on the purple planet and it's just Sylvie and Loki and they're like trying to not die, or the at the end of time with the alligator Loki and the kid Loki, or just like there was a lot more, like the episodes really did feel distinct and adventurous and unlike anything we'd seen before. Whereas season 2, so like I got the first 4 episodes all at once as a critic journalist, which I only say because I watched the first 4 back to back to back to back, which is I feel like how they should have been watched. Like this season could have benefited from an all at once dump because it is so exposition heavy. That week to week you're like, wait, what happened? But I'm also like, I did appreciate that. I think ultimately none of the exposition even mattered and none of it made sense. It was very like old Star Trek kind of like, we've got to get the transponder into the through line and the which I don't know, I kind of appreciated like the campiness of that. But it was a very different tone to have what felt more like team Loki rather than just Loki, because it was more of an ensemble this season. But I did like the like directness of it, of like they had a mission, it was one mission pretty much throughout, and they just like did it. And so like it was cool when you would get those moments in that control room when it was like Obi and Mobius and Hunter and Casey and Loki and Sylvie and he who remains, or he who not shall be, Victor Timely.
So I have to say I like 2 better than 1 only because I did not like Sylvie. Like I found Sylvie so grating in season 1, and in season 2 I liked her.
Because she was hardly in it.
Season 1 she was like a wacky Doctor Who character that I couldn't stand. And like was like all like whimsical and like blah blah blah. And then in season 2 she was like depressed and not in it as much. And I was like, this is a version I liked. And I didn't like the romance. I never bought their chemistry. I didn't like when they kissed.
I thought it was creepy as hell, and I loved it.
And I was like happy to have less of her. And even what we got of her, I liked her as this like super fucking bitter variant who's like, don't fucking bother me. I want to work at McDonald's and don't want anyone talking to me. Like I appreciated that.
Sponsorship was so heavy-handed.
So
it was
loved it.
Ridiculous.
It was all up in your face.
So over the top, but also like makes sense. I don't know, because
it was funny. It was funny, but it was there.
It was very like, we need to have a promotion partner for this so that people will come back after the debacle of Secret Invasion.
You know, it's funny. I remember in one of my writing classes in undergrad, a professor like asking everyone what they felt about that. They were like, I remember her saying, it was one of my favorite writing professors, Lauren Grodstein, and I remember her saying something like, what does everyone feel? Do you want them to say, if someone's drinking soda, do you want it to be an actual name of like a brand, or do you want it to be a made up name? And I was like staunchly in the, if it's made up, that's distracting for me. Just say it's like Coke or whatever. So I like that it was McDonald's, but I do get how that could be. Like, I know some people are like, about that shit where it's like, that feels a little too much, but I like that it felt like this is a job.
The idea of female Loki working at McDonald's, like, just very funny, very funny in general.
And my other comment I have about this season, they remembered that they had powers this season. I felt like in season 1, Loki did not have powers. It felt like he was just like running around.
Well, that's because the TVA, they couldn't use their magic in there.
Well, right, but he was always on different planets in season 1.
That's fair.
And so I kept being like, why wasn't he using powers? And this, I mean, he still didn't. There's lots of times when he's like running and I'm like, but he has powers. What? Just do a fucking magic.
Right.
But
he did a magic at the end. He did a magic.
But I will say both seasons of this show fall under the category of like Umbrella Academy and The Magicians for me, where it's like, I love this, but I don't always know what's going on, but I'm having a good time. So like, fine. And the time travel stuff does get a little bit like, I like, if He Who Remains is always there, then how was Victor Timely the first one? Because that's not even that long ago. Like, I thought He Who Remains was like, you know, like a bajillion years old, but Victor Timely wasn't him yet, right?
So
he might not even be him at all because he didn't get an instruction manual at the end of the season.
Well,
or whatever.
So before we'll get there. Sure, we'll do that now. Do we think they were solving their Jonathan Majors problem with that?
They got to do something.
So like, I just don't. So this is my position. I don't get why they don't just recast him. And I know we've seen the entire Ant-Man Coliseum of the different He Who Reigns. Like, we've seen all the, what's his name? Kang, whatever. Kang, whatever. Anyways, but we've also seen Loki as an alligator. So like, yeah, we've seen a million of this guy that looks the same. That's not to say there's not 5 billion more that look different.
Well, yeah, there's 3 Spider-Men that are different ages, heights, like
entirely different people. And now Miles Morales is getting introduced. And it's just like, why can't we just push him out?
I agree.
I don't know why they're like, we have to pivot to an entirely new storyline now. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Although I'm fine. I'm also fine if they're like, okay, good, we told our Kang story, because multiverses and timelines, guys, we've been beating this horse for a long time. I'm ready
I have to
move
hear
on.
the word time as much as I did in second season of Loki. I will end it all. I can't do it. I started counting and I was like, I can't. It's in every other sentence of this show.
So it's weird. I said this. I was on Adam Strawn's podcast to talk about Invincible, the first episode of season 2. And I don't know if any of you have watched it, but they do introduce like the idea. Yeah. They just like talk about the idea of a multiverse. And I was like, I'm tired of hearing about that, even though I know this is like, comics have been doing that forever. Like X-Men Days of Future Past came out forever ago. And that was like, I played that storyline with my action figures when I was a kid, because I loved the idea of like, someone like dies, but they can travel in time to stop it. Like, I thought that was so cool. And then like change the course of whatever. So we've had that for a long time, but it feels like now everyone's leaning into it. And it's a little like, all right. Like,
it's been like 9 years since like X-Men Days of Future Past, the movie. And it just hasn't been. And I think that it feels more, so like comic books, we get 12 issues a year, you know, so essentially out of those 12 issues, maybe 2 of them are multidimensional, you know, who's he, what's it's is. And if you're reading multiple comics, then it's like 30, 40, 100. But like the movies are like, we get 2 of these a year.
Yeah.
And when you're making all of them, like No Way Home, Multiverse of Madness, WandaVision, it just keeps going. And it's like Loki, and it's like, God, this is a lot. And that's all we're getting.
Yeah. Like, I think if they did it like once every other or once every 5, then it's like different. But if it's like all of them are doing it, it's a little.
And then you have Into the Spider-Verse is doing it. The DC movies are doing it. Into the Spider-Verse is the only one doing it, like, excitingly.
Well,
boy, Flash was bad. But yeah, so I guess we'll talk about I do think it starts a little slow, but this is both a critique and something I loved is they got a little precious about the characters, but I did like that. But they did get, I agree with you. I think Jojo, you said it earlier. It's like, what TVA is this? Because like they weren't all friends and there weren't all these people here. And like, it felt more like there is a presence that is running this that we didn't know about. Like we got the fake lizard people or whatever. And then this season, it felt like it was just like, ooh, we're like a tight knit family. And then there's the like bosses who kind of suck. But then they're all killed, so it didn't matter. That was a little jarring for me, but I liked it. But I also can understand where that would be like, I don't like this. This is a full U-turn from season 1 because Mobius was like the one that kind of was coming around. And then was it B-15? Like when she was shown that she had a life, she came around, but then it felt like everyone was just like, yeah, we're cool this season, except for like the higher ups who got put in jail.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what did you guys like? Brett, I'm curious what you thought of the TVA this season.
No, well, I mean, I did think that it felt a little bit like, you know, a YMCA lock-in. Bowl. Come on, guys! I was raised in Tennessee. We had to do all this stuff. Oh no. Yeah, like it did feel a bit less, you know, like the TVA in season 1 felt like the bureaucracy was a big part of the show, and it felt very like fun and like, ooh, this is like really like thought out or structure. But maybe that's because season 2, like the structure's taken away. The lizards, you know, the lizards have no clothes. They're dead, you know.
Yeah.
And even like, man, everyone kind of lost their marbles in season 2. I mean, when we find out that Miss Minutes, who is over my shoulder, oh no. When we find out that she's like a horny, scheming, like seductress / like femme fatale, and it's like, oh my god, like nothing is everything is. The entire TV's lost their minds. They're all wilding out. Like, I mean, Renslayer's traveling through time trying to like make sure Victor Timely gets his notebook. Like,
it felt like both Miss Minutes and Renslayer were trying to fuck Victor Timely, and he had no interest in either of them.
So that's like something that you mentioned, not liking the romance in season 1. I didn't really care for it. I saw it. I got it. So Loki loves himself. This gives him the opportunity to physically do it. Yeah. But season 2, I was like, all right, they're not pushing that anymore. And then they gave us, to me, the cringy Miss Minutes confession of love, which just feels to me like a very like straight man written version of a female AI. It feels like the storyline they always go down is like, oh, they're obsessed with the creator. And then it's either like obsessed with the creator or wants to become the creator. And I feel like in season 1, Miss Minutes' whole purpose was serving the creator. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we lost that with season 2. And Renslayer being Renslayer, I feel like her whole character was wasted. I got really upset.
She was hard. Yeah. There's a lot of hardly in it.
I really do wonder if they had rewrites because of Jonathan Majors, because it felt like they were leading to that, and then Miss Minutes and Renslayer were like fully sidelined after like episode 2 or 3. And like they would hate them, but it felt very weird. It was like both of them are like, no, we got to stick with him, and then it was like
instant flip because he locked Miss Minutes in a temp pad for like 5 minutes, and it was like, oh, her entire programming is now switched. And for Renslayer, it just like, she's supposed to be this grand general of his entire army. Yeah, she had her memory wiped, but why, after having her memory wiped, is she now getting like her butt kicked all the time by Mobius and by Loki? Like, she conquered the multiverse,
right? But
she's now like this idiot bumbling around, not being able to do anything just because she lost her memories. I don't know. That felt weird to me.
I don't know. I do see all the critiques. I do like fully get what y'all are saying. I don't know. I felt like Renslayer, for me, I thought she had died at the end of season 1. I forgot that she was alive.
I forgot that when people get stabbed with the stick, they go to the end of time. They don't die.
Yeah.
Right.
And so until the very ending scene at the end of the finale, where you see her at the end of time, I was like, oh shit, she's not dead. Like, she never died. And because that's what, when she showed back up, like my brain was reeling.
I had to look up. I was like, wait, what was that fucking light looking at her? I had to look because that was a thing, apparently.
I was hoping that she would look to the right and there'd be a Loki with the horns, alligator. Like, that'd be great. But no, that would have been
Yeah.
Listen, you know, I gotta give it to, it was Eric Martin that wrote this season. if you have a little AI that looks like Ms. Minutes, I feel like you're going to be tempted, like, well, I want to write a seduction scene where this little thing tries to like raise up her skirt a little. Like, it's so weird and stupid that, and it was very unsettling. So I kind of, in retrospect,
I kind of
applaud the decision. This is the very bizarre, stupid decision to make Ms. Minutes.
bizarre,
like,
stupid decision. It was a
Very-
swing. It was
Yeah.
a for
Very
sure a
comic
swing.
book-esque. But I guess for me, it's just thinking about she spent eons with He Who Remains, and then because one of his variants disrespected her, didn't love her back, she flipped on all of He Who Remains and all of his variants.
It was that
That's what
time of
got
the
weird.
month for her.
She
God.
just
Do you guys know who voiced her? Who's
Tara
voiced-
Tara
Strong.
Strong.
Oh, okay.
She did like Harley Quinn, right? Brett, was she Harley Quinn or was she
I think a
Batgirl?
recent one. I don't know.
She might have been
That's-
Batgirl.
That DC animated stuff ain't my.
But she's done a lot of like
Mhm.
animation stuff. I guess so. Okay, wait. One of you explain to me, was Victor Timely the first version of He Who, or was he just a variant that hadn't become He Who Remains?
That's confused me too. After you asked that question, I was thinking, I was like, I don't know. I don't
Taylor?
know.
I think he's the variant He Who Remains selected to fix problems or to bring things back around to where it would be him and Loki in that room. Because like you
Okay.
said, it's all about reincarnation. It's all about me being here in this chair. And that was the variant that would lead everything back to him. And so I think that's why he chose that specific version of himself.
Now, can we ask why Jonathan Majors chose that
Delivery,
accent, performance style?
every other word taking 20 seconds to get out. Yeah, that was.
Well, it was. I really so like this, headlines aside, I liked seeing He Who Remains in the last episode because it reminded me of like, oh, this is a captivating Kang.
Right, yeah,
this
yeah,
is a
yeah.
very good performance that is a little bit unhinged, a little bit off kilter, but still very direct and menacing and charismatic. Whereas Victor Timely at all times felt like the cool person trying to act like a nerd in a way. Like, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. You're Jonathan Majors, and you're not really selling me on it. Like, I don't know. I didn't like him.
I read your piece for Decider, Brett, that said it was like his performance was nearly unwatchable, and I agreed. And like, I'm not just saying that because he's been shown to be a terrible person. It just was bad, right? Like,
it felt
Bad
tonally
choice.
different. It felt tonally different from, because like Loki's not a serious show. It's a kooky show. But it was like he was playing kooky in a CW superhero show kind of way, and not kooky in a MCU superhero show kind of way, maybe.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston are kind of like the line for wacky in this, right? And he kind of like went that way instead of like going with their wacky. Yeah, I did not like anything with Victor Timely. I mean, to your point, Taylor, also I was like, why do these people want to fuck this guy? He's like annoying, and he's like this nerd who is not trying to seduce either of them, but like is just kind of there.
He's supposed to become the most powerful being in all the multiverse. It's
go.
all about power. I mean, that's what Rinslayer's whole motive was, power, and Miss Minutes was just horny for her creator because why not, right?
Why not?
Did that feel like the end of Kang for you guys?
And that's what
Or like
I'm wondering.
Maybe like the beginning of the end. Like maybe we'll see him in a movie and then they'll end it there or something. Or I don't know.
I think that it could. Man, well, I mean, because even at the very end, they have in that coda, they have that one little exchange between Hunter and Mobius. So they're like, oh, and Timely, oh yeah, there was a little on a 616 adjacent reality, but they handled him. So
right.
I don't know, like in a way, they could be like, yeah,
They said that. It's like, okay, are you saying that was the end? We don't have to worry about him anymore?
And that was them referencing Quantum Mania, right? That's what
That's what
okay,
I-
yeah.
So I mean,
and they do defeat him in that movie.
yeah, and then there's all of
And
them,
it was Ant-Man that defeated him of all the Avengers.
Honestly, you could plug any Avenger into that movie and it would not change a bit because none of them had personalities.
I
So
mean, it was a whole lot of look at this thing, we're doing it now. There's no
wild.
explanation. There was no setup.
I will say Michelle Pfeiffer was fun to watch in that movie. But
Oh,
that's
yeah,
kind of
fun.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's kind of like my
Michelle
only
Pfeiffer.
defense of that movie, because it's pretty bad. But yeah, no, I feel like this could go either way because I was not sure what happened with Loki at the end of this season. I was like a little bit like, this is awesome. I watched the first time I watched it, I was stoned and I was like, this is so cool. The music, the like him grabbing the shit. I didn't know what the fuck was going on.
I didn't know what was happening either.
Yeah.
So there, have you seen the theories that he's become the time stone?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
And so that, to me, like that makes sense. And that also helps kind of wipe Kang out of the way because he's master of all the time streams now. And so even with the TVA, like I really feel like they're sweeping him under the rug. They're kicking him out completely. And I feel like they did it in a very effective way because we saw his skeleton remains at the end of time, right?
Yeah.
When Renslayer was there. So we've seen like he who remains actually dead.
Yeah.
And then now that they're like keeping an eye on his variants very specifically, I feel like they'll introduce and go a very different route, but pivoting this late, I don't know, after a whole phase of setup for it, they've got to do something with the multiverse now that they've made it and shoved it down our throats so far.
Well, I'm also of the mind of like, we don't need a big overarching villain. We don't need just tell good stories. Like, just get a director and a writer who love characters and just make a good movie. Like, it's like that seemed to work for you guys during like phase 1 and 2. And I think that like, I don't know, Kang wasn't it. I don't know. I was always kind of like wary of like, well, just because the multiverse thing is so like, oh my God, we all thought this was confusing with a 5-year time jump and half of everyone getting blipped and etc. Now multiverse, Jesus Christ.
Did you watch What If?
Yeah.
And so I feel like they did a really good job with the multiverse and with the Watcher. I feel like that was the perfect way of doing it. But I do think, to your point, like the overarching villain, like the first phase is all built up to different mini bosses of sorts. So like Loki being the villain of the first Avengers and then Ultron, but it all led up to Thanos. Yeah. And I feel like they're trying to recreate that setup. And it's like, I feel like that's a once in a lifetime thing. And everybody wants to do it now. And it's like, stop looking at 30 movies down the line of where you want to be. You've got to sell us 30 movies first.
It's like focus on the movie or show at hand. Because I mean, I don't think there are this is any spoiler or nothing, but it's just like Secret Invasion into the Marvels. I'm like, is anyone talking to anyone? Samuel L. Jackson is in both of these things. Like, so you have to make them match up, but there's just like,
there's a super funny like screen grab from Eternals where like the giant alien monster things it's a frozen stone reaching out of the water at this point, and everyone's like, this happened years ago and nobody's talking about it. Nobody else on this earth is worried about the Star
She-Hulk made a joke about it. I think like if you look at the newspaper on She-Hulk, it's just like giant hand.
And that's the only time it's been mentioned, which is wild.
I love it.
Granted, I will say in our Marvels recording, the thing I liked about Loki season 2 is even my nerd brain was like, okay, but if all this is happening, what's happening? Like, what is happening with the Avengers and like the heroes? Like, what does New York look like while this is all unraveling? Like, is what I kept thinking. And then I was like, it doesn't fucking matter because this is a self-contained story. Even though it's like a big self-contained story, it's still a self-contained story. And like, I mean, Brett, I'm sure you probably will agree with this, but like comic books do that all the time where like they don't need to be calling in every hero for everything because sometimes there is, I feel like in the 90s, sometimes in the 80s, they would do a lot of, the Fantastic Four is off planet right now, or the Avengers are in a different universe to try to like, say
which is fun. You can get some good jokes in there. Like, that's nice.
But it's like every hero doesn't always have to be there for every like big event. And I like that they had a huge event here, but it was fine. It was like self-contained to this story. I'm not sure where we're going to end up with Loki after this, because I do feel like this either could be setting him up to be Kang, which I feel like we've already done villain Loki, or it could be like the full end of Loki. Maybe he'll make a cameo in like 2 things or something.
There was an interview, I think, with Tom where he talked about this was the end of my 14-year journey as Loki. And so I think we're done with them, which I think is great. And that season 2 of Loki, I think it was a perfect ending. And what I love the most about Loki as a show is it was so self-contained. Yeah. And I honestly, as much as I love some of the characters, I hope none of them bleed over, because I am so overwhelmed with this phase introducing 17 characters every TV show, every movie. Mm-hmm. There's so many characters, and like it worked in the earlier phases because everyone knows Iron Man, Captain America, Thor. Right. Nobody knows Ant-Man's daughter, Hawkeye 2. Like, there's just so much going on, and Loki season 2 just it was contained, and because they are the TVA, they're outside of time, and so they don't have to interact with the timeline anymore.
Yeah, and that is the thing I really appreciated about this. That's why I was almost like, I kind of would love a TVA show or something, because it's like, I like that this, like, they can breeze in and out of shit. We could do a fun thing where we see Mobius walk by, the superheroes fighting, and that's not why he's in that timeline or something, but like, this can exist. It feels Marvel, but not Marvel, if that makes sense. And I mean that in the best way. Like, this fits in that universe, but we don't have to see them talking to the Avengers. We don't have to see them talking about the Avengers. They mentioned Quantum Mania in passing, and it didn't even matter, right? That could have been anything, sure. Jojo, I'm sorry. I feel like I interrupted you.
No, you're good.
No,
You're good.
okay.
So I have a question for the group. Do you think that we'll see Sylvie come up in future projects?
This is what I just had this like lightning bolt of inspiration of like, I would love if we get a Young Avengers, like, I don't know, limited, it'd probably be a limited series on Disney Plus or something. And I would love it if like Sylvie just worked at whatever their version of the Max or the Bronze is. It was like, she's like, well, clearly what I love doing is cashier sometimes, working the grill other times, and it would be great if like there's just this woman at our hangout who keeps giving us very pertinent information about the multiverse and magic, and we don't know who she is. I would like, that would be, to me, that would be fun and a good use of her vibe. Also, if it's McDonald's and you keep getting that McDonald's sponsorship,
I wouldn't be mad at that.
Because really, we don't know. We saw her with Mobius, and we saw her when he asked where she's going. She's like, meh. And it's like, okay, so I don't think she's going back to her McDonald's job in the 70s or 80s or wherever she was. They left it open. And
there's so many McDonald's.
That's true. There's so many different times.
She's looking for her own throne, and she will become the Burger King.
She's gonna become the GM.
The Burger King. That's her throne. Jojo, what would you like to see from Sylvie?
I honestly, like you said about being a self-contained story and with its characters, I kind of would like it if she was in that story and didn't move on into the movies, because it's just gonna mess with my head. Like, this is Loki, but like if she was gonna be a character that we're gonna see in several movies, like she's titled as Loki now. Like, this is the new Loki. This is how we're gonna approach her and treat her. That's gonna mess with my mind because I'm just so used to Tom Hiddleston that I don't want to look at her and be like, this. I have to treat her as the new Loki, and now she's gonna be. I don't even know. Would she be a superhero? Would she be a side villain? I don't know, but right. I like it if she just stayed within that self-contained story and lived her McDonald life.
All right.
I wish that she would, but I feel like the direction they've taken us with everything else just makes it feel like she will be brought in.
Probably, for sure.
We've gotten the younger Hawkeye, the She-Hulk. We've gotten version 2 of every other Avenger. Black Widow. We got
damn actor contracts. God damn. But also the comics keep doing it.
That's true.
So, okay, I have another fucking hot take. He should have just fucking killed Sylvie. Like, I was like, why are we just killing her? Like, every time she was like, you have to kill me to stop me. And I was like, all right, fucking do the thing. Just like.
Always wanting to fridge the women, just like you.
I mean, this is why I liked her so much better in this season, because that was reminding me of why I didn't like her, because it's like, you all are like doing weird multiverse shit. Why is it so hard to believe Loki when he's telling you, like, hey, I saw the future and this is a terrible idea? Like, I don't know, that doesn't seem right. Like, that doesn't seem that far-fetched to believe.
You're in the TV.
I have.
Yes, Taylor.
Go ahead. Oh, well, I was just going to say, like, I have thoughts on this, and I think it was to contrast the character growth that we get from Loki compared to who he used to be, which is what Sylvie would represent, where no matter what you told the old Loki when he was invading New York, it didn't matter. He was invading New York. Right. It didn't matter that he was going to destroy the entire earth and have nothing to rule over. Whereas in Loki, even in season 2, towards the end, where OB is asking him, like, what's your why? Like, what's your reasoning? And it comes out that he cares about people. He cares about life. He doesn't want to be evil anymore. And even with the torture scene when he's torturing X5, like, that comes originally I was like, why doesn't he just beat the crap out of this guy? Like, that is very on brand for him. And then when he ultimately almost squishes him to death, it was actually even Mobius's idea. It wasn't even Loki's idea to torture him. And so we get to see this great growth in him as a character. And I think that's why he ultimately couldn't kill Sylvie, even though it just was so much easier.
It's like, if you kill her, we stop everything bad that's happening.
Well,
I don't know.
And I like that the finale was almost built around that question, or at least like the middle portion of it. Like, he goes back to Mobius basically to say, like, plot, like, even as a screenwriter, I know plot wise Loki should kill Sylvie, but I am now asking the characters, why shouldn't I do this? How do you deal with that burden? So I do like that the show kind of addressed that, and that Loki's reluctance to do it became like a driving point right there in the middle.
I also
very
did
well done.
like that he went to talk to her when he stopped time. I liked that a lot, when she was like, if you're asking for my permission, I'm not giving you my permission
To kill me,
like
dumb.
And I like that even though this version of her was way more chill and subdued, she still wasn't like, yeah, go kill me. She's like, you got to do what you got to do. I think we should all keep fighting. Maybe we die fighting. What fucking ever. Like,
Yeah,
I did really like that, because I felt if we were doing like Avengers or something, all of them would have been like, if it was Tony Stark or Black Widow, she'd be like, yes, you have to kill me. Go ahead. And it's like, no, I like that this person's like, yeah, that might stop all this bullshit, but still, I'm not telling you to kill me, because no.
Because even though they reference like that he's a god and that she's a god regularly, they never remember like the god of mischief. He's a chaotic being. That's what he does, and that's what she does, and that's what she stayed true to the very end. And I enjoyed that kind of. She was the baseline of Loki.
Yeah, no, I do like that. So I mean, I go back and forth, because I also like, if we never saw her again, I'd be fine with that. But like, half of me is like, I don't know, we would have just saved a lot of trouble if we just fucking killed her.
What about Obi? Do we think we could see Ouroboros pop up in other places?
Oh my gosh, I hope so.
I loved him.
I mean, it's a self-contained story, but that's the one character where it would put a smile on my face to see him a little bit more. He was a highlight for me.
Yeah. I really liked him. Taylor, I feel like you have a differing opinion.
Like, his character is very quirky and very much the fun character to throw in. My problem comes with just how he was thrown into this season, and he was the author of the handbook, but nobody mentioned him season 1, and no one had seen him in 400 years. But then literally Mobius and Loki went to see him once, and he was the go-to guy. B-15's name dropping him in the head console room. It's like, you don't even know who this is.
Or, I mean, who knows? Maybe their minds have been erased. Well, no, I guess who knows? TVA, man. I don't know.
I don't know. That was my only thing, is it just, he became like the be-all end-all guy, and no one knew who he was 5 seconds ago.
This is that kind of does speak to the issue that modern television has, where like, we can't keep, maybe this will stop now that the WGA strike got what they needed, of just showrunners do not stick around from season to season. So like, everyone that made season 1 had nothing to do with season 2. So like, who knows what Michael Waldron and, oh god, what was his director's name? I can't remember. Kate something. She did Sex Education. But anyway, like, who knows what they would have done with season 2, and like, if there maybe was an Ouroboros style character in season 1 that they would have elevated to a recurring, or I still think that 1 and 2 work together kind of as a piece, but I do miss your old Buffy days, where it was just like, here is an actual through line of a consistent staff of writers who can keep things kind of together.
Yeah, and I mean, I do think you're right, like, hopefully that, because didn't Marvel even say, like, before the strike was over, but probably because of the strike, that they were going to start doing showrunners?
Jesus Christ. Oh my God. That quote from whoever their head of TV was, of just like, we're going to start making television. And it's like, y'all motherfuckers been making television for like 5 years. Why are you just now realizing that you need showrunners and maybe a pilot, instead of just greenlighting a bajillion dollar
everything?
All of the Secret Invasion stuff is, I need a tell all about that, of just I
skip that show.
Jesus, good.
Yeah.
Because I think it sounds like there were maybe like 2 versions of the show before the version that we saw that were maybe good.
Okay.
They just kept like shooting whole episodes and just like, I mean, they just did it again with Daredevil, but like, I'm glad that they're riding that ship, and the directors of Loki season 2 are doing some of the new Daredevil. So that's
They
that's
are. They're
exciting.
not. They
Yeah,
are.
they just announced like
Okay.
we're bringing them over.
Nice.
It's like, thank God.
Yeah, Secret Invasion was like impressively dull. Like
Okay.
it was joyless, it was boring. It like
How
I've
you
seen
have
it
a-
back, and I've seen everybody be like, "What
if,
the fuck?" about whatever happens at the end. I still, to this day, don't know what everyone's like. WTF?
I don't
about.
even know. I mean,
but I just skipped it. I've just seen what's her name, Emily. I've seen her with the arm, and I was like, okay, so she's
oh yeah,
the weird baby
the twist.
arm.
I guess I don't even know the full on twist, but I can get an idea. But I guess everybody hated the story. I don't know.
I mean, it was a spy show about shape-shifting aliens where no one was really being deceptive at any point, and the shape-shifting didn't really shape-shift that much.
Yeah,
it's like, what is this? You're not doing spy stuff or alien shapeshifter stuff. That's what this is. God.
It's a shame because there was like a hint of potential. Like Samuel Jackson's a good actor, clearly.
Right.
Olivia Colman's a good actor.
God, yes. Her scenes are the only good thing about the show.
Yes. And her scenes were like kind of fun, but other than that, it just like I couldn't tell you much about it. Taylor, did you watch Secret Invasion?
I haven't, and it's because I don't want to watch a bad show, and everything I've seen about it is just big budget, bad show. And I've been super critical of almost all of the shows they've released. I loved WandaVision, and I loved Miss Marvel. It is one of my favorite things to come out of the MCU. I love her as a character. I love her as an actress. I love the story and the culture they put into that movie. And the color, because I feel like so many of their movies now are so dull. They're either like a mind trip of like, I'm not on acid, but I feel like it, or it's like, this is gray. And there is no in between for these things. But I don't know. So I haven't watched Secret Invasion, but I feel like I need to, because I'm the kind of person, I want to get every reference. I want to understand all the points, even if I still haven't watched She-Hulk, and I know I need to, but
She-Hulk's fun. It's
I
just
have
fun
with that too. I have fun with that too.
Yeah. And Brett, I know you love She-Hulk.
No, it's in WandaVision in my top 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, I think if you love Ms. Marvel, I think then you will definitely like the Marvels, because I do think the Marvels kind of like all hinges on if you find her charming, and like I think she's so charming and cute and precious.
She's a kid. She's the first character we've gotten in MCU that is actually written as a teenager.
Yes.
Because Tom Holland is a grown man playing a teenager.
Like he takes his shirt off and it's like, well, that's clearly a man. Like
it's the radiation.
But I do have a question, kind of comparing season 1 to season 2 of Loki. How do we feel about it starting with the time slipping and then never explaining how he got this magic power and then was able to stop time, exit the time stream? He became a god of time essentially by the end of the movie, and I never really understood how or why we got there.
Well, like, I mean, He Who Remains said that he did it. But I don't know, like, how.
Yeah.
As I mean,
the
thing works in mysterious ways.
You even saying that, Taylor, I'm like, how did that happen?
Like, I mean, because at first it was an accident, and my thought was like, okay, like Sylvie kicked him through a time door while she was killing him and breaking the time stream. So maybe that threw him out of like sequence. And then they pulled him through the whole thing and sucked him out of all the time streams, and that fixed it. But it didn't, because it happened again. It just like, I was just like, we didn't get why it happened in the first place, and then we didn't get why it happened again, and then it was like, oh, it's all Kang's design. It's like, is that really justification?
I guess that's what they can say.
I feel like that might be something we lost in the rewrites. I feel like that might be something where they were trying to change the story a little bit and be like, okay, like we had a reasoning and everything, but to get rid of Kang, we're like, it was me. And that Loki's like, okay, bye. Like, because I'm just going to be a dick to you because you were dumb. Like, that's the only thing I can think of. Though I do like the idea of like Loki evolving beyond God of Mischief to now God of all time.
Yeah, because he could teleport, sort of, kind of. Well, he had the space stone, so maybe that's what that was. I don't know. I was mostly like, I spent most of the season finale or series finale, maybe, who knows, trying to like figure out the loom and the like all the ramifications of like, if they made the loom bigger, what happens? If they destroy the loom, what happens? What is the loom's real purpose? Just because they kept like revealing new things about it that I was like, wait. Okay. So like
too much information. I'm like, oh.
So a thing that I feel like I've said this a lot, a thing that like in sci-fi and fantasy, a thing that I always want is like Star Trek level where it's like the dilithium crystals don't work. Sure, that's all we need to know. We gotta go get the thing. Or like, that's why this is like, I don't care about. And I did feel like they kept adding new information about the loom. And I was like, I barely know what this thing is. Like, I know what it looks like. I'm looking at it on screen, but like, and it's like, fine, just say it does shit. I don't know. Like
when they were explaining throughout the show, like showing the branches ripping and things are tearing, and then the loom, and then OB would be like, we have to do da 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 da, and I was really trying to follow along. It's like, all right, he's saying that step 1 is this, step 2 is this, but I got lost in all that because there was just so much little things that they were mentioning. It's like, am I supposed to retain this? Because is this going to be important? Because
is there going to be a test? Yeah.
So yeah, that stuff is what I mean. Like, especially in the very first 2 episodes ish, with all the information that was being thrown at me, I was like, I feel like I'm just supposed to be writing this down because I'm not going to remember this. But yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah, I did end up loving at the end when Loki had ascended to being time and was grabbing the branches, and then it all like the fact that it all hit of like, oh, they've been saying branch since season 1. Like that has been part of the vernacular. And Yggdrasil, the Norse like tree, and that's like what he becomes, which is the loom on its side. Like that, I was like, oh, that buys them a lot of leeway. Because I was like, okay, that is cool.
Never drawn that branch connection. You saw in real time me putting 2 and 2 together because I saw the tree at the end and I was like, oh my god, it became the tree. But like as far as branching, even while we've been talking, I didn't think like, tree branch.
There's like time stream, like branch, like there's such like a almost Nordic nature kind of thing. But yeah, it was really a lot. But also it kind of at times I did think that it was pretty campy, just how ridiculously complicated everything was.
Yeah.
And just for in the end for Kang to be like, oh no, it's a failsafe. Like it's here to promote my further like desire of only having this one timeline. By the way,
full disclosure, I still barely on when he was like, it's a failsafe. I'm like, how the fuck is that? I don't understand. Like what?
So it was there. Basically, it killed off if there were too many branches, it would kill them off to fit through the loom. And that's what it was doing. And the whole problem was all the branches were dying because they couldn't fit through. And so
and Loki's and all the team all thought, oh, we just got to make it bigger. They thought that it was possible to make the loom bigger to fit in more timelines. But then after hundreds of years of trying, they realized, oh, wait, no, it was designed to never be able to do that. And
I don't feel like
I had to read some ending explains to figure this out.
I don't feel like they did a good enough job explaining why like it was multiplying infinitely, just because like one decision splits into 2 branches and then a decision on those splits into 2 branches. Whereas they tried to do the mathematical explanation. I'm like, most people are not gonna get this. Like it's just when you say
it's a lot.
Zero, like, okay, I get it. Yeah. So the whole loom thing, it was a trope and it was fun, but it just kept going.
I will say, I wanted to say in regards to the loom, we get that spacesuit and the production design of season 2. I love the production design of season 1 because it was very 70s brutalist. And I think that season 2 maybe even topped it in terms of just like the gorgeousness of a lot of these sets, specifically that big dumb spacesuit. It looked like a fucking Mobius drawing, which is ironic because Mobius was wearing it. But I just loved it.
I will say, like, we've had some like big misses of the last few years of like their CGI, but I thought this all looked like really tight. I was surprised. Even when Loki's walking through everything, it looked fucking cool. Like all the like lights and all the like different colors. I really And I liked how the TVA, and I think it was in season 1 too, but it's like a little bit hazy sometimes. Like it's like,
Yeah.
it looks like a smoky 70s office.
Well, the new directors, like there was a new visual language for this season that I would notice. Like it felt like they had positioned the camera very far away, but it zoomed in, and that is how they were getting their like tight shots, which made it feel a little bit like voyeuristic, a little bit uneasy there. And I think that really like worked with the way the TVA was operating this time. Like I just think that it was a very visually, it still maintained a visually striking tone, just like in season 1.
Yeah,
I definitely think like the artistic direction of this season tops season 1. I loved like the shots. Like there were many times when someone be monologuing or two characters would be talking, and they'd just be these beautiful shots. And I was like, this is amazing work right here. Like this is good direction.
Yeah.
Like if anything else, if I had not liked the show, which I still liked it, but just watching it was still visually pleasing.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I guess, what did we think of the little team that came together?
I thought it
was felt like everybody had like their own different role and why they're here. It's like we have our leader, we have our leader's love interest, we have the muscle, we have the bookworm, and I don't even know what you would consider Casey, the second bookworm, the second bookworm. You know, everyone had like a different role, but it was kind of random. Like, why was Casey so involved throughout the whole thing? It's like I felt like he was like a TVA worker who ended up they just like recruited to be there. I don't know.
Cool kid stable.
To me, it felt very like roles. Like this is your role, this is your role, this is your role. No reason why we picked you, but this is who's going to be, and this is our cast, and this is the TVA actually, because everyone else is gone. That's how I looked at it when I saw it. I was like, all right, oh wow, gosh, what was it? 15. I was like, all right, we got the muscles here. There's Loki, he's our leader. And that's how I was taking it when I saw them come together.
That's fair. Because I liked it, but also I could see why someone would be like, why the fuck is this now a family? Last season, they were not like this at all. But I don't know. I liked it. I liked when he is going through the different, after everything, what is it? The second to last episode, I think, when he's seeing them all in like the different timelines, and like we see Casey, is it Alcatraz he's escaping from?
Yeah.
I love that, because it's like, what the fuck are we doing? But I thought that was, I don't know, it was just like fun. It was like, I like a thing where it's like collecting our heroes, and it was kind of the opposite, right? Because he was going to them, but they were like, I don't know who you are, get away from me. And I liked that. I don't know. I liked seeing where they were.
And we got to see Owen Wilson, Mobius, on a jet ski, finally, paying that off from season 1.
Yeah.
I do have to ask the question, though. Do we feel like, why did Loki feel justified taking them from their places in time, just like Kang did? Because that's how he got them in the TVA to be workers in the first place. And that's what Loki was doing to further his agenda of saving the Loom. I guess kidnapping them. He wasn't kidnapping them. It was on their own free will, but he was still taking them. But he points out very clearly, like, I can bring you back here.
Right,
at any point in time. I think he was
promising them to come back.
Yeah.
So he was transparent about it, but he was doing the exact same thing that Kang did.
He was doing the, like, many versus the few. He was kind of running through a test run of the argument he would be giving himself in the next episode in a way, but didn't even know he was doing that.
So I read a review that was like, was this supposed to be that maybe Loki created the TVA? Like, was that what it was?
That's what I thought we were getting to, was like, oh, he's actually going to be the one who made everything happen. But he's going to end up disappearing at the end of the season, and all the credits going to go to Kang or something like that. But then he abandons that idea and goes for full self-sacrifice. So it's just
good
like,
for him.
I don't know.
Yeah. We've seen Loki die. So he died at the end of the first Thor, where he just like fell off the Bifrost. That he died at the end of. Did he die at the end of Avenger? He died of Infinity War. He fake died in Dark World when he was stabbed. So I'm like, he's been murdered over and over again. This is the first time that we've seen him sacrifice.
Be a hero.
Yeah.
Or I guess he was a hero in Infinity War.
Yeah,
he was.
I will say, I do look forward to, like, I heard they said like they want to reunite them, and I feel like that would be the end of both those characters, is when they reunite Thor and Loki. But this always bothered me with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is like, I like when a character gets development, but I hate when the characters who knew that character don't get to see it. So like I'm always like, man, I wanted to see Thor and like Iron Man and Captain America be like, oh, Coulson, you're alive. Look at all the shit you've done. Holy crap.
So you're
I like
a clone robot or something? I don't know.
I like that. So I want Thor to be able to see where Loki ended up, or like where all the good he's done. Like I want that, but also like I'm okay if that was the end of Loki. I don't know. I go back and forth with that because I do like I think it would be nice for Thor to see where his brother, like how far he's come, right?
That would be a fun scene between Sylvie and Thor.
That's true.
Because Sylvie doesn't have a Thor. Like we don't really know much about.
Well, because she was taken from her timeline almost instantly.
Yeah.
Right.
Because she was a girl.
Right. I forget where was she? Like I know she was taken from her timeline quickly.
She was hanging out in like the throne room of Asgard, and they like came and got her, and she was very young.
No, but I mean, where did she like grow up? Like where did she get
in apocalypses?
In
baby.
apocalypses, yeah. Right. She would time jump, and anytime they found her, she would jump again.
Right.
And kill people and jump again, and
as you do.
For hundreds of years,
just a Loki.
Loki things. I guess so. I also want to talk about Obi. I didn't really talk about him, but I really liked him. I thought he was. I do agree with you, Taylor. Though it is weird that it's like suddenly this guy came out of nowhere. We specifically say it's been hundreds of years since he's seen anyone, and then suddenly he's seeing everybody. But I did like the Victor Timely full circleness with him, where it's like, oh, they both wrote this book like together. And how excited he was. I'm just like really charmed by I can't remember that actor's name.
Kwan.
Yeah.
Kwan. I have to close my eyes real quick.
I'm very charmed by him. I think he's like very cute, very sweet. I liked him in the MCU. I liked him interacting with these characters. I also liked when Mobius goes down there. He's like, yeah, remember we met in that elevator. Mobius is like, I don't really remember you. That was a long time ago.
I was afraid they were gonna just sideline him a little too much. Like he was really making like a cameo kind of appearance, maybe 1 or 2 episodes. I didn't realize he was gonna be so involved like throughout the whole thing, but I'm so happy that he was.
Yeah. I thought he was a nice addition.
I was thinking like they're doing this for like star power because his name is everywhere right now. So like we'll throw him in for an episode or 2 just to get some information out of him, and that's it.
Well, it's kind of how Olivia Colman fell on Secret Invasion.
Yeah.
Where it's like, this should be her show. But she's only in
like half, maybe, right?
Maybe like a scene in half of the episodes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think what I really enjoyed and what I found most charming about Obi was that he was just a guy. No powers, no nothing. Yeah, he was super smart, but he also had like centuries of studying and learning and a handbook to learn from. And so he was just like a dude that figured all this stuff out. And I enjoy that they introduced this idea of the infinite loop of providing information for the timeline between him and Victor Timely writing the TVA handbook, because it's which came first, the chicken or the egg. There's no answer because somehow this loop got created. I don't know if that's something they'll explore, but I don't know. Every time he always had the fun little stories and the fun little weird quirks of just like a quirky little nerdy dude. Like when he first invents the temp pad, his like prototype version, he's like, yeah, like, it took me 19 months and my wife left me and yada, yada, yada. Yeah, but I did it. It's like, okay, dude, like you good. Like
I love when he was like, yeah, that was fast. And he's like, no, it wasn't. I like that. And I like that then we go back to that at the end, right? Because Loki's like, how much time will it take me to learn everything? And he's like, well, and what is it? Is it like a full decade Loki spends learning about
Centuries,
right?
Centuries. Yeah, which is wild. And that's what I loved about Tom Hiddleston's performance is after that, he's like trying to save the fucking universe existence. And he's so like, guys, go over there. He seems just like exhausted.
And he's like, yeah. Wow. Keep going.
I love that.
He spent centuries learning, but he only had the amount of time that he was actually introduced to Obi forward, because he could only go to places he'd been in his life. So he was reliving the same week for centuries.
Jesus, I love that.
Yeah, I loved the like tone of like, yeah, it's great. Yeah, it looks like this. Yeah, the figure looks like you, but we're gonna use Victor. Yeah, I know. Like he's already like, just fucking keep going.
Password denied. Password accepted. Like
what? That was so great.
Tape your right thumb, your helmet.
Oh yeah, green button, go.
I always
don't set it down; it will roll off.
Yeah,
they're really good.
And when he goes to sit down, he's like, what I say, don't sit it down. I love a character that's like over it and just wants you to like fucking keep going.
I love that. Yeah. I also love the visual effect, the spaghettification, which is a real thing, which is really weird, of Victor Timely and then later everyone, the new dusting or whatever. I just like that that effect was so at the end of episode 4, I think, is when he first like steps out there and is immediately
jaw dropped.
Like that was
yeah, didn't expect that.
Wild. But that's apparently what really happens if you go into a black hole, or what they theorize would happen.
Interesting.
Really?
Yeah, no, that's real. Yeah, Google spaghettification.
Wow.
And I did think it looked really cool. Like when we first get Sylvie in the like the music shop and she's like listening with her headphones and the guy's like running and it's all coming towards them. I thought that looked real fucking cool.
Yeah.
It almost, the visually almost felt like a callback to WandaVision when she spaghettifies Mr. Fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Because she and so it's like, I don't know, maybe she was playing a bit with like pushing him through time as opposed to like just ripping him to pieces.
Rip John Krasinski apart.
All right. Well, is there anything else before we do our little like end of episode roundups?
Okay, I did have one very specific scene I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
The pie scene. Did it bother anybody else as much as it bothered me? How focused they became on pie? Because it was like,
was there a reason behind that?
That nothing.
Okay.
Nothing. It was just like 5 minutes of them biting spoons. It drove me insane.
Love. I don't know. I can't remember. It's been so long.
Until you mentioned that, I forgot. That was like they've like focused on that a lot. And then
it was so heavy-handed. Like, we're gonna go get pie, and then he's like, "Oh, key lime," and the room is only full of key lime pie.
That too.
And I was like, "It's something about the green. This feels like a director inside joke that like someone
maybe
did." Because like the whole scene didn't need to happen, but it was just this weird, meaningless conversation that lasted forever. And I swear to God, every time they put the spoon in their mouth, they bit it. And I was like, I'm gonna die. But I did like when they brought it up later when Sylvie's like, you want to go eat pie right now? She's like, the world is ending, lives are ending, and you want to eat pie. That was the only other thing I wanted to bring up. I was like, it's just a weird scene for me.
When we first, because it's the same room that they get lost and they stumble upon in like episode 1 or 2, right?
Yeah.
I did think that was weird. I thought that was going to be like a secret room of like something, but
oh, was that room in season 1? I don't remember.
No, episode 1 or 2, like
episode 1. Okay, yeah.
Because I was like, oh, that's weird. Because I guess I thought of Mobius in season 1 as like he kind of knows everything about the TVA. He's like the nerd that knows it all. And for him to be like, I don't know where we are, I was like, wait a minute. This guy who like loves the TVA doesn't know this room,
right?
But I guess it's like it's so big that like I liked that in episode 1 when he jumps. I was like, ooh, we're gonna see what this like town looks like because like what the fuck is like there's buildings, there's cars flying. I wanted to see like out there, because
like is the rest of the TVA just at their weird homes?
Yeah,
which I think exist, but maybe don't like.
Because I just watched The Fifth Element the other day. It was on TV, and I kept thinking of The Fifth Element with the flying cars and like the city that like everything's super close. That's kind of what it looked like.
Like in season 1, I'm trying to remember, were we shown like Mobius or like Renslayer like having like a home inside the TVA? We saw like a bunk or something, didn't we?
We saw Renslayer's office, which was very big, so it looked like a living room. Right, it had like a sunken conversation area and like bar and.
I remember that. I just really thought we saw like Mobius go back to like his home for the evening. I don't remember though, but it definitely like introducing that whole city. It was like, what is that?
Right.
Is that part of the TVA? Is this?
I also forgot to mention also the beginning of the season because like season 1 ends and Loki like goes back. No one knows who he is. He looks out. He sees the Kang statue. And I think that for 3 years, at least I thought, oh, he's in a different timeline. He has changed everything. But then to find out, like season 1, no, he's gone back in time. So far, like this is before they instituted the lizard people. What the fuck are their names? I don't know. And so then him going to the conference room and busting up the mural and seeing underneath it is Kang stuff. I was like, oh, that's 100% not what they meant at the end of season 1, but I do like. I mean, this is a way better reimagining of a plot than what J.J. Abrams did to Rian Johnson for the third sequel movie, where it's like, you didn't pay attention to anything. Okay, cool. It's like, no, this actually is a cool addition and reworking of what they intended.
Yeah,
because I was like, I do not want to have a whole season of Loki and Mobius having to like reconnect. Like, that's boring. So I'm glad that they were quickly like, nope.
And I did think it was cool the way he figured it out with the crack when he was like, wait a minute, has that always been there? Like, I thought that was like a clever way to like, for us to like kind of figure it out, although I did not figure it out. But okay. What was like your favorite part or a favorite scene, like a favorite anything of season 2? Jojo, I'll start with you.
Oh gosh, can I go last or something? Because I have to really think about.
Sure, Taylor, I'll start with you.
My favorite thing is definitely just like the growth of Loki and seeing him become just like not just a hero at the end of a movie like we see with all of the MCU movies, but like the hero saved all of time. He got his moment where he was a selfless being for the first time, like for all of the universe, not just for his brother, not just for his family, not just for Sylvie, for all time. And I really feel like I used to hate Loki, entirely wanted nothing to do with him, and the show made me love him as a character. So him becoming the tree, awesome.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jojo.
I was gonna say, I was just gonna piggyback off you, what you were saying. Do you feel like this was a good ending for him? Are you satisfied with this? If this is Loki's ending,
I would love to like never see Loki again, because this is where he needs, just like Tony Stark. I hope they don't bring him back in any form or fashion. This is his Tony Stark moment. And honestly, if you think about it, he became the tree from Norse mythology. So he is the tree that they worship and they draw in pictures and all the things. It's always been Loki. So he's grown beyond that because he's now outside of time and at the beginning and the end. And so he is the tree. He is what they worship because he's time.
That's so mischievous, honestly.
That's so Loki.
Yeah, that's so him.
On brand.
Brett, what was your favorite thing from the season?
I really liked Loki's tuxedo when they went to the 1970s. I really liked that of the entire 70s sequence. That was very good. And also, we didn't really talk about the squishing box. That torture device was. It's so like, I like it when you could watch something and be like, I don't think I've seen that before. I haven't heard those noises. That's really disturbing, and I really like that.
The idea of like when B-15 walks in and they don't show the room, but what she sees on the floor.
Good act, so good.
Because like if they showed it, it would be a horror movie, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I like that too, because I was surprised at how brutal it was
without showing any.
For a Disney show, like that they put that in there because it was like squishy.
Just like squish like these 10 people to death. Like that's pretty fucking miserable. Jojo, did you come up with
a couple things I'll say? Okay. So character-wise, I'm gonna say Obi. Obviously, in Miss Minutes, I think Miss Minutes was very sassy, and anytime that she was on the screen, my eyes were glued to it. She was incredible, and I don't even remember the year that they were in, but when they went back, when they first discovered Victor, was it 18? Was there a specific number?
Yeah, it was like 1860, 70, something like. Yeah, it was like late
1800s. But I guess that set piece, because when you started talking about everything being visually pleasing, I think that set piece was really pretty. So during that time was nice, and then the only scenes not the only scenes, but one scene that stood out for me, I guess, that was nice was the part when Victor decided to go in and try to fix the loom, and then he spaghettified that whole sequence, and then trying to repeat everything. That was fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was my favorite, was him repeating everything. I love that part, because I feel like that could be that's like very hit or miss in a lot of things, right? Where like sometimes it gets boring, where it's like, all right, we're doing the same shit.
I very much dreaded when they started that sequence. I was like, here we fucking go. Like, we're going to montage him getting this wrong 1,000 times. And then they did it so well.
Yeah.
It was nice because those things usually drag on, but like having the main person be like, I'm trying to fucking do something. Really, really changed it. And also the fact that they moved it like from place to place, so that it also
they kept going back a little bit more just for extra time, but
Yeah. So I loved that, but also my favorite, again, even though I barely knew what was going on, was the music and the buildup and the visuals of him just grabbing those branches and like him turning into like Loki with the horns and the cool like
that
new
was
costume. It was so cool and it looked fucking
cool.
awesome. And like, you know, we ragged on Quantumania a lot. That movie did not look good. This looked great.
No, yeah.
Like this didn't look like people just standing in front of a green screen. This like looked fucking cool. And
Quantumania was a fever dream.
God.
I can't watch it again. It's too much.
What grade would we give this season? Brett, I'll start with you.
I would probably B+.
Okay. All right. Taylor?
I'd give it a nice B+.
Okay. Jojo?
Dang it. B+. B+. That's
I am surprised. I think I go with a flat B. I thought like I was going to be the one with the best grade, but I think I go with flat because I gave Marvels a flat B. I think I give.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no. This definitely had quality in every department. So B+ for me.
All right, that's fair.
The visuals definitely. I want to live in the TVA. I know it's dystopian, but God, I love all that.
Brett, I feel like those visuals are made for you, though.
I was just like, they're like Mad Men plus Marvel plus.
It's like kind of retro, but updated retro.
See, for me, it would be much lower if it wasn't just this pivotal ending for like this magnanimous, great finale for Loki, and that just really just like. I will remember that final scene of him fusing everything together. That'll be a standout from this phase forever.
No, I agree. I really think loving that ending is what made the season work so well for me. Because again, Brett, I do think what you said is very true. It's very apparent that like it was different showrunners and different writers, like not doing what was planned. I'm still okay with it, but it was like a little bit of like with like what we had set up. Which is okay. That's okay. I still liked it. But thank you all for joining me. Thank you all for listening and watching. If you like Slayerfest 98, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can subscribe to us on Patreon, where we are going through Buffy Season 3 for all the episodes' 25th anniversary. We started Batman the Animated Series, and soon we'll be starting X-Men the Animated Series. You can have join our watch-alongs, our Discord, our private Facebook group, and more. Any and all support is much appreciated. If you like us, you can find us on social media at SlayerFestX98 on all platforms. I am Ian X Carlos on all social media platforms. Brett, where can everyone find you?
Everyone can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Brett White. Or you can also follow my drag exploits as Barb Hardley, especially on YouTube, where I just did a 15-minute long explainer about how Ms. Marvel almost changed the course of the X-Men comics in the 1970s.
I love that you did it in drag.
That'll be my thing now.
Taylor, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Instagram at TayRob57, and then I've got my link tree because none of my usernames are the same because I'm terrible.
Jojo, where can everyone find you?
Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. I am Jojo Cortez with an S at the end, not a Z.
All right, well, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.